Hello, we are live, and all of a sudden their cameras disappeared, but there they are. Now we got them back. I was going to say, of course. But with this week's NABLL weekly update, we have with us Tim Semish, as always. Tim, how's it going today?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Good, and we've got Kyle Baker from the Maine Northman, and I gotta say, from last year's Nationals, Kyle, you have one of the most loyal fan bases on the YouTube. Congratulations to you, sir. You guys are doing a great job up there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We couldn't do it without him. Since day one, we've always tried to have a good connection with the fan base and families and friends and grow the Northman family as a whole. So it's pretty awesome to see when it shows up like that.
Yeah, it was cool last year at Nationals. I know, horns up in every comments. They had at least 100, Northman fans in the every single chat. Yeah, sorry it's a little dark here. I'm not in my usual setting. I'm not in the setup in our office at all. I'm down in New Jersey actually on vacation. But now, Kyle, you were just explaining to us that you guys are getting ready to gear up for playoffs. You want to kind of
Yeah.
explain your playoff schedule? It kind of seems similar to what a lot of the teams do, but I love how each division you guys get to make up, how you want to do it.
Right. Yeah. So we're following the model we went with last year where, top four teams make playoffs. This year it's a little different because we have five teams in the region. So unfortunately, Rhodey isn't in the mix this year, but top four teams make it. We play a semifinal game with one playing four, two playing three, and then the winners play in the championship. And we're going to do it all in one day on Sunday, the 13th, this Sunday. And games, I think, yeah, first game's 10. Our first game is noon. And then quick turnaround for the championship at 2:30.
Now,
So,
yeah,
if
that's
you're in the Boston area, come to Roxbury Latin, check out the game. If not, Fans Only Sports will have it live.
yeah, now that is something that's huge. You guys have that fans only sports out there. That is such an awesome thing. But you guys, do you play all your games that style, or you guys normally play one game a day, right? And is this just kind of convenience and to
No,
kind
yeah.
of get you
So
ready for nationals?
definitely. Before we were in the NABLL and we were in the IBLA, we would play the top two teams in a best of three series, and we would go home away for that setup. Um, Last year, we decided to revamp things for playoffs, but essentially, our regular season is run the way it's always been, where home games and away games, one game a day, like like the NLL or like the leagues of North. We don't play the round robin game setup at all, other than that playoff day.
Do you guys do that? You guys are the perennial national team out of that region. Do you guys make that decision or push for that to kind of help you guys prep for nationals? Because you guys have that experience of playing how quick it is. You get 2-3 hours back out on the
Right.
floor.
Um, Honestly, like I really key my focus on the lax. So on the back end, I chime in here and there, but Ryan Conwell with the Nor'easters he's a real organizer and he loves to take the reins on things, and I'll either green light it or chip in with advice on different stuff. But as long as I'm okay with our schedule, the way our games are going to go, and I feel like our guys have enough time and this and that, I'm good with whatever. I just want to play. So
So you guys,
I
you guys don't push for that as a prep for nationals.
no, no, not really. If I nationals every year it ends up being weeks after the regionals anyways. So as far as prepping that early in that way, I don't really see the value of it. Whether we play a series, one game a day, or a round robin setup, you know, all the guys in the mix have played tourneys, have played multiple games a day. We're all adult lacrosse players here, so it's kind of like a read and react. When we get to natties, we know the setup, that we know what it's going to be, so we prepare accordingly.
So you guys don't have like a nationals prep plan or anything like that, even after you guys win your
Oh,
region.
well, I definitely have started on that stuff and have started on scouts and have started on our practice plans moving forward. But at the end of the day, I'm not putting anything out to the team or even really talking nationals until we take care of business on Sunday.
Love that. Love that. You got any advice for? Because you guys are always in the mix for the natty. You guys make it deep into Sunday. Do you have any advice for GMs, maybe a first time GM who might be going to nationals? Hopefully, any tips?
As far as the nationals go,
Yeah, prepping the team for nationals. Should you guys make it? I know you guys still got to take care of business.
I would always suggest at least 1 or 2 practices in the gap between your season. If possible, get some type of scrim going, whether it be a random group of guys that want to get a run in, or if you can get an actual team to play you in like, a 75% type of scrimmage, let you go through some things. We've found value in that in the past. But in reality, my focus when it comes national trip time is to really lock in the back end stuff. It's a tough position being GM, player, and coach, as you know. And I want to lock in all the planning stuff first. So I really get hard on where's everyone staying, what's everyone, doing travel wise. I always rent out vans and try and stay as a team, whether it be hotel or Airbnb house. And we'll do a big grocery shop. I really just like to get everything comfortable and settled, and then focus up on the lax stuff, because when you're running around trying to organize while trying to prepare for a win, it's tough. So I key on the back end stuff first, and then that's when the scout stuff comes into play. Like I said, I've been on the radar with other teams around the country, throughout the season, who I already know is going to be at nationals, who I expect to be there from the other regions. And we have experience with last national championship playing a number of the teams, so we have those game experiences against them, and also whatever film and stats and anything we can get from the summer. So I like to dive into that stuff. I'm kind of a stat nerd with that stuff, so I like to put up some scouting reports, and this year we're definitely going to be more prepared than we have been in the past, given where we earned the trip.
I really like how you do the whole team thing as far as going as a team, staying as a team. That alleviates so much stress for your players actually, and then everybody, like you said, is all focused on lacrosse. And when everybody goes, then it's more of a team trip like you would have with the pro or college level. Like we talked about, this is one advantage that this league really puts out there that I don't know if people take into account is how much competition this brings to young people. Just having the practices, the scrimmages, like you said, being able to get those warm ups. Like the Thousand Island team right now is going to play an all-star team from the rest of the division to try to get themselves ready, and like how guys do that. It's a very interesting mix in how teams do it. Now, I wonder if every team does like you do, or have you noticed a lot of teams kind of do their own thing?
Uh, Honestly, I really wouldn't know, because when it comes national time, we're the only ones around that are in that situation preparing. So, um, I mean, I know a couple of the other GMs around the country, but I haven't really delved into any of them with what they do as far as preparation goes coming into the tournament. Um, as a coach and a player, I've always been, as much as I like to dive into stats and do the scouting report stuff, when it comes game time and like what actually matters about what we want to worry about, I really don't give a shit what other coaches or teams are doing. We're going to focus on us and come in ready to ball, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have kind of proven that. I mean, even going back to the old league, I feel like you guys have been in the national. You've won it once, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
You've
We
played
won it 2019, and then we were in it every year since then.
in the final every year since then.
Not in the final, but at nationals. So
Right.
we were Pittsburgh. We were at nationals. I think we went 2-2. Shit show COVID year. Asterisk that one. 2021 we were in Florida. I think that was the Florida year.
Yeah.
And we lost to Seneca War Chiefs in the semifinals, who ended up winning it. And then and then last year we were in Columbus and lost in the final to Westminster.
Yeah, that was a good game. So what is your guys' kind of practice like? Do you use those scouting reports, and like do you run like a scout team? Do you try to recruit anybody? Be like, hey, I need you to kind of be this lefty. He plays like this, or anything like that, or you just kind of go about your business?
We haven't done much of that. We kind of have a regular practice plan that we keep weekly. We go through our certain warm-up drills, goalie drills. We do a lot of full floor flow stuff, transition stuff, and then we always practice for 2 hours. Second hour we gear up full gear. First hour we go helmets and gloves. Second hour we really break down 2v2s, 3v3s, on ball side, off ball side, progress into 4v4s, 5v5, and then usually finish with either some scrimmaging if we're not playing the next day, or or we'll just go like power play, shorthanded stuff to finish. Because a lot of times we practice Friday night and play on Saturday, so we don't want to gas ourselves too bad the night before a game. But we always get after it hard, and we always, I've always been a fan of practicing like you play. So I want to bang around. Like I don't feel like I get enough out of practice reps unless I'm getting cross-checked and we're playing the way we need to feel it, come game time. So our practices are pretty high tempo, and we don't do a lot of crazy, um, real unique things. It's all meat and potatoes, box lacrosse stuff that a lot of us older guys have learned through the years, and got to pound it with the young guys.
Getting the
That was
reps in seems to be the most important part. Like you said, just getting the reps in, knowing the offense. Now your team. Sorry to
Just
cut
getting
you
on the
off.
floor is everything in the box game. You can watch a million videos, you can read a million, books, manuals, whatever. You, unless you're on the floor running around, feeling the contact, seeing the space, you can't learn it. It's the nature of the beast, and it comes with time and comes with reps. And some young guys get frustrated with that and may fizzle out. Some guys kind of go the other route with it and see that as a challenge, and those are the kids you see excelling.
Definitely. Now, where your team is made up of mostly what? Do you guys have mainly like so you played up north a little bit. We talked about this before. You started with the Vermont Voyagers and playing now why don't you tell us now that we're on live, where did you play college and how did
Yeah.
you get started playing box lacrosse?
So like I mentioned earlier, I grew up as a hockey player. That was my main sport my whole life. I was on the junior hockey route, and lacrosse was my spring sport that I ended up just getting good at later in high school. And um, it became an option super late. And being a main lacrosse player, obviously I wasn't getting looks from anywhere. So I PG'd at Holderness School in New Hampshire, played hockey and lacrosse there again, keep my options open, and I ended up at Merrimack College after that because they offered me, the best package as far as some lax money and academic money goes. So I went there. I played my freshman year there, fall semester, sophomore year there, and then essentially couldn't afford to go there even with the package I was getting, and had to come back home. Didn't want to stop playing. Enrolled in Southern Maine, played hockey and lacrosse at USM for the rest of my career, and I think that had a lot to do with why I'm still going, because kind of like, put a little chip on my shoulder. Didn't really get enough out of what I should have because I was late to the game. So I started playing up north in the summertime. I played in the Quebec Senior League for 6 summers, for the Vermont Voyagers. Um, I attribute everything I've ever done in the box game to Jeff Culkin and the Vermont Voyagers. I'm following in his footsteps as far as like trying to grow the American box game, and they did amazing things for a lot of years. And you know there's still a handful of us OG Voyagers on the Northman right now playing, and guys around the country still growing the box game because of it. So that
Now,
was that
Coach Tony from the Yeti, he was
yeah.
affiliated with you guys somehow, wasn't he?
Yeah, Tony came on, I think either my second to last year or my last year, and was on the coaching staff with the Voyagers. So we got to spend a summer or two together up there, and he's awesome dude, loves the game, knows the game, great locker room guy, great coach and player. So yeah, Tony and I go way back to those days.
Was
It's
there
such
much box when you were in Maine, like when you were going back and forth to Voyage?
Nothing,
Were you
nothing there.
were you bringing it back to Maine yourself and kind of
That
grassrooting it?
any box lacrosse that's ever been played in Maine is through me and the Northmen. I I was driving 4.5 hours for a home game playing with the Voyagers, and then 6.5, 7 up to Ganawage and Ottawa and whatever. And as life progresses, that gets harder and harder to do on the weekends. So I was like, there's nothing around here. I have to create it. I'm not gonna pout and say I wish I had this. Why not build it? So that's
So
where it all came from.
how'd you guys go
What's
about
up?
doing that? How'd you guys go about doing that? Because there's a lot of places in the country right now. I mean, we get emails as a league where guys who either may move from from either your guys' region or they
It's
moved from
just
Canada themselves?
dedication. It takes people like Kyle. It takes people like Paul. It takes people like you, Tim, to just be willing to put in the hours. I mean, I wish there was a simpler way to do it, but literally, I think the only easy way is to explain that you're going to need somebody to put in way too many hours and have a super understanding wife and a family who's cool with it. And basically,
You're so
unless you
spot on.
have that combination, you're done. You're not going to get it.
That's very true.
You
So
that
how'd
couldn't
you
be
guys
more
do it?
true. Yeah.
How'd you guys do it in Maine?
Long story short, the IBLA was popping up, and the guy who started that I knew through the Voyagers back in the day as well. He was labeling it senior lacrosse. It wasn't senior lacrosse, and I got a little taste of that with the Mill City Hitmen in 2018, and then I hit him up after that season was done and was like, you know, I'm experienced in the real senior game, and I have a market up here. I have a group of guys that want to do this. So he let me launch the Northmen, and we've been going since then.
So 2019 was Northman's first season?
2019 was our first summer. Yeah.
Didn't you guys make it pretty far that
We
year?
won it 2019 So we went
They
undefeated.
They went kind of
and
far.
Yeah, you said that
Yeah.
earlier. That's my fault. Didn't put that together. That's all.
They made it a little far.
Yeah.
You feel like that kind of put a little pressure on you guys or put a target on your back, like first year win.
Oh, 100%. And I love it. Like it's less pressure, more so what you mentioned next, the target on your back. And like, I'd rather people gunning for us and wanting us than being, dust in the wind, being middle of the pack team that no one's talking about. I'd rather, I prefer the villain type of side of things. So if people are gunning for us, all the better in my mind.
Yeah. Do you kind of take that into your approach as the GM as well? Because I mean, you guys are, when it comes to social media, when it comes to running games and all that stuff, like you guys are in the top 10 in the league of how about you go your daily life. So you kind of use that as kind of your motivation for everything as well.
Definitely. And like, just the blue collar, the underdog, the villain, like that's all the vibes that I've been trying to build everything on. And it couldn't be, closer to the truth, because I am a plumber by trade and I run the program on a shoestring budget and put in way too many hours, like he said, and have a very understanding family. So, we like that grinder type of mentality, and you do what you need to do to succeed. So,
But
I'd much rather have my team blacked out with a bunch of no-name D3 guys winning games than a swagged out, all-star team that can't put a game together.
but that's what makes nationals so exciting. So I mean, you're taking an entire group of guys like you who spent, eat, sleep, breathe. Every free minute is spent building these organizations for so many of these guys because just getting it doesn't sound like a big thing, but trying to get your first 10 guys is like impossible to get. Then you can kind of rotate guys in and out, but knowing that you've got 10 to 15 guys that are going to show up. How hard was it for you to find goalies when you first started there? Did you just kind of grab a couple hockey goalies, or how did you end up with Duncan? Because I love watching him, and that whole Hasek style is one of my favorite styles. Like, he is hands down one of my favorite goalies to watch. Him and Crosby, they very similar as far as that really athletic.
Crosby and I go way back with the Voyagers as well. But yeah, Duncan's an awesome dude. Me and Dunk go way back. The way he got in the mix was he actually ran that Mill City Hitmen team, the team that I played a couple games with in 2018. And when I hit up the league to launch the Northmen, the Hitmen weren't really in a great position as far as that league went overall. So we kind of agreed to fold that team and launch the Northmen. And Duncan, like, obviously I was already boys with him, so he was part of the process of me saying, hey, like, just come be my goalie and or be in our goalie mix. And so he's been with us since day one. And our other top goalie is Joe Evans, who I played with for years in the Vermont Voyagers. He's one of my best friends, for over a decade now, and he's been in the Team USA mix, played in the old NABLL, was signed this year in the PBLA. He's a pro level goalie, and he's been with us since day one too. So we've honestly been very spoiled when it comes to the goaltending aspect. But we've also done what we can over the years and grown some newer guys in the net who have gotten some reps and are building their box goalie game from the ground up, kind of, being new to the indoor game. But at the end of the day, Joe and Dunk aren't getting any younger, just like myself and a couple other guys. So who knows how reliable that'll become in net. So no, I love those guys. They got years left, but we have a couple young guys and a couple newer guys who are starting to get it. And goalies are super valuable come pickup nights, come practice nights, come anything. So it's always nice to have a good group of bodies in the mix.
So what do you guys do, not just goalies, but for a team? Because you said you got a core of guys that have been playing since the Voyagers days. So as a GM, you got to be thinking long term of, so what do you guys do? Do you have local leagues? Do you recruit?
So, yeah. So again, like year one, I went after it hard. Our average age was probably 30 in our first year. And it was just because I brought in a bunch of the older guys that I knew had played the box game and knew what to do, knew how to grow it. So we've gotten progressively younger since then as guys have kind of made their way out, life's got in the way, this and that. But every year we're kind of at the point now we're getting a crop of maybe 5 college age kids that want to come out, and maybe 2 or 3 of those kids can hang. So so we're adding to the group every year as some guys are making their way out. So it's really just we're kind of at a steady point now where we got a good group of young guys, a good group of like probably 23 to 29-year-olds, and then we still have a handful of 30 plusers in the mix that are helping lead. So it's a good mix now. We've definitely gotten younger though, for sure.
That seems to be a pretty good number though, because you don't want to really get too many young guys that are. I mean, unless of course you get a bunch of them that really know how to play. But as you're trying to mix them in, 2 to 3 guys keeps you young enough that you're not really fighting for playing time, but you actually get guys that really want to learn. Because if you're going to practice and you put up with a beating just to kind of learn, especially if you get a couple offensive guys that, want to learn. And you get a guy who
Definitely.
scored a bunch of goals in field, and now you're like, hey, let me beat the snot out of you for a little bit. And you're not going to score at first because all of a sudden the goalie has no pads. But come on, if you stick with it, it's so much fun.
Right. See, I love that aspect. I love seeing, a lax bro field attackman coming into the box thinking he's just going to stick G's and then really struggling with it, because it just proves that it's such a different game, and it's a challenge that you actually have to put the time in to learn. You can't just, oh, I score in field, I'll score in here type of deal. It's just it's not the case, and unless you actually experience it firsthand, people don't realize that.
Well, especially because you said you guys practice full speed, full bore, which if that's how you guys played at nationals last year, that's terrifying. Thinking if you have like a high school kid or a college kid coming to join you guys. So do you
Right.
guys give them a bit of a warning or anything like that? Because I remember watching you guys last year, and your defense is vicious. They're big and they're
So
mean.
yeah, so we try and be as big as mean as possible. Obviously it plays a factor in every game you play, but we practice like we play. And with the newer, younger guys who may want to step on the offensive side of things, guys like myself and Dewey running that left side, where we mention things individually, like, hey, keep your head up. Hey, picks are going to come hard. Guys are going to blow up picks, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, we just throw them to the wolves because there's no better way to learn, live 2v2s, put some veteran D out there to beat on them, and they learn quick.
Do you at least give them ribs and biceps, or you just throw them to the wolves, let them go out there without
They're given ribs and biceps. If they don't have them already, we definitely keep some on hand to provide until they can buy their own.
Do you guys ever have those guys that come out and insist they don't need them? Because that may be a Southern thing, but we have kids every year. They're like, I'll be fine. And then I cross-check them one time.
Like I said, yeah, exactly. So it lasts however long it takes to get that first good jam. And then they're like, yeah, I should invest in some biceps.
Especially the rib pads. You see a lot of guys think that they don't need those, but like
I can't imagine playing without rib pads nowadays. Like it's not even a thing, like, I don't know.
I give them to my high school kids. My high school attackmen, I'm just
Mhm.
like, I don't even care
Right.
much about that anymore. Just put these on. It'll save your life.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
don't. I don't
That's the thing with the field and box game. You know, in field, it's cool to wear as the least amount of padding as possible, but in box, you need to pad up, you need to gear up, and you need to cover those gaps. You know, and there's a long sleeve jersey, so who gives a shit? No
Yeah,
one's gonna see all the gear you're wearing, anyways.
sure.
And honestly, if you're not wearing the right gear, you look scrawny in a box jersey anyway, so it doesn't look cool.
Well, as a defender, like I always try to feel out guys early in the game. Like I'll hit a guy on both sides just to see, because sometimes offensive guys will only wear their dominant side or their non
Hmm.
bicep. So I'll try to see like, oh, can I catch you on the other side?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
or have you ever wore those like ribby shirts, those like football ones?
Yeah, I've worn them like under gear before, like even under rib pads, but I I wear pretty heavy duty rib pads and gear up nowadays because if I'm not feeling it, I'm way more confident with everything I do.
I feel like those undershirts though are starting to make a move into lacrosse, and some guys are a little confident with those.
Are
So you make
they hard plastic?
no, it's literally the soft foam that's under the hard plastic. It's just missing the
Okay.
it's like you ever felt like the bottom of like football pads?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's that material. It just doesn't have that plastic cap on it. But maybe it's a southern thing or whatever. But I'll feel some guys. I'll cross check them and I'm like, that's not a hard plastic.
I was gonna say you gotta cross check them a little harder and they'll get rid of those things.
Yeah,
Like that plastic cap on top of that's what stops the force, you know?
yeah. It's a lifesaver. But I mean, that's how often do you get people like? Do you ever get people those newbies like leaving right away, or any parents complaining about that? Like if you have those young guys, because I know you guys have had a couple 18,
Yeah.
19. But if you're throwing them to the
Yeah.
wolves,
So
that's
we started the year this year with 43 guys in the mix.
okay.
And we keep everyone essentially. And then I explained the fact like, okay, if you're in our top 30 active roster, you're paying, full player fee to me. Otherwise, you can pay a smaller amount, get a practice jersey, get a pair of shorts, and be with us every single week. I want to grow the game, so I open it to everyone who wants to show up on a weekly basis. And if you're bottom of the barrel to start, but you're there every single week and guys fizzle out, all of a sudden you're in the roster. So I like that option, but it is inevitable. And I know it at this point, and I plan for it at this point that, you know, we started with 43. We're at, I think, 33 now of like actual guys, maybe 31 ish of guys who are still in the mix, still showing up to things. But I think we dropped like 5 to 8 after the first 2 weeks just because they were like, okay, this is way too different, not really into it, or it's going to take way too long to learn. I don't want to deal with that, blah, 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 that type of stuff. So, like I mentioned, like those are the guys we don't want on the floor with us, anyways, or in the mix throughout the season. So, good riddance.
Do you guys do anything as a team field wise to kind of keep everybody in the family at all, or is it all box all
What?
summer?
No, nothing field lacrosse related. I don't even play field lacrosse really anymore. I coach a high school. I'm a head high school coach in the spring. Um, and I actually just played at Lake Placid in that tourney, but that was the first field lacrosse I played since my alumni game back in October. Um, I really, I don't see a value in doing anything field wise with my Northman guys in the summer because all it's going to happen is picking up bad habits that either aren't going to work in the box or, are going to shift what we've been working on for a few months now. So obviously it's great to have a stick in your hands, but as far as like playing actual field lacrosse, I don't really do any of that.
That's
And
amazing.
then
Still love it. Still love it. It's easy and it's boring, and I don't like that shit. You know what I mean? Like field lacrosse is boring nowadays.
it's too easy to score goals. You don't like scoring goals.
It really is. It really is. 6x6. Like, how do you not score everything? Yeah.
6x6 with no leg pads on the goalie is the other big thing, though. I
Right.
mean, just
Right.
no. Yeah, it's I don't know. Honestly, since I started filming box lacrosse, I can't tell you the last field lacrosse I watched. I went to one PLL event with my nephew there to go, see it live. But other than that, yeah, no, I have no desire to even watch it anymore. This is so much more exciting, I think, to as compared to anything else. Like the national championship game between you and Westminster has the potential, last year to be, by far one of the most exciting games played in the country. anywhere that week easily, hands down. It's like not even close. So that's why, to me, yeah, it's I love watching this, and I'm glad we get more and more of these outlets, and that fans only. You guys hooked up with them, and that's so cool because now almost every one of the games that you guys played this year is streamed and recorded, and
Right.
it's a record always for these guys and for you to have is be like, hey, this is what we did. This is the game film. This is how you make yourself better. Where did you find your
Yep.
supply of young men is coming from? Do you have like a college that you guys are close to, or how do you get the 5 to 10 new guys to show up?
Really just the main lacrosse community is still fairly tight knit, and I've played and coached in it in many different capacities for almost 20 years now. So, I've coached at 3 different high schools. I've coached with 2 different clubs in the state. I've coached college at University of New England right here in Biddeford. I played at University of Southern Maine, which is another local D3 school. So we have kids from St. Joe's, Maine, which is a D3 school, USM D3 school. Um, we have, some New Hampshire guys coming up that play D3, D2 ball, but it's really just, a Southern Maine, Central Maine, Northern New Hampshire group of guys who have all played somewhat locally, and I either had a connection to personally, or that came from the organic growth over the years of word of mouth and marketing and whatever else. I every year we have an open tryout, so there's guys that show up that I've never heard of or seen or talked to in my life, so it's cool to have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and keeping that open tryout, like you said, though, but also not actually cutting anybody. So that's what I know a lot of other teams do as well. And it really makes sense because as guys fizzle out, I don't know if anybody's gone into one of these seasons. I'd be very interested to hear if there's one team in our league who starts with the same amount of guys are finishes with the same amount of guys they started with.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, go for it.
I would say no chance, just because literally what you were saying earlier, just with practices, the physicality of the game, and then just life gets in the way too. So guys get cross-checked, guys get bumps and bruises, and sadly, we all have jobs still to go to on Monday. I don't know about you, but I've had guys who they've made it through a couple practices. They play. We do round robins down here, so it's a little bit different animal. When you're playing 3 games in a Saturday, and then you got to drive 4 hours to go home. But I've had guys
Mhm.
quit mid-season where they're just like, dude, I can't do it anymore. I can't show up to work with, giant bruises and barely lift my shoulder.
Yep. No, yeah. I mean, it is definitely the nature of the beast, and like I've always been in a unique situation, given like I've worked in the trades and I'm self-employed, so I've kind of given shit to anyone I ever hear that line from, like, oh man, we got to work in the morning, blah blah blah. Yeah, so do I. But like it again, like you said, it is a little different. I can show up to work as beat up as I need to, or just you know choose to take a day if I need to. So it allows me that freedom. But I guess if I worked behind a computer in a cubicle and had to dress up for work, it probably wouldn't be a good look to show up with stitches in my chin or a black eye or
I
whatever.
uh I
you
heard
know.
somebody say it in Can-Am the other day, and it was hilarious. He said, "I work sales. I cannot show up with a." This guy was trying to get him to fight. He goes, "I work sales. I cannot show up with a black eye. I'm really sorry." And I was just dying laughing because I was like, "Wait, the only reason you're not fighting right now is because you're like, I can't have a black eye and go to try to sell whatever it was, that he's selling."
I don't know. I mean, sales is, I don't work in sales, but sales is, making connections and storytelling, and then you make the sale afterwards, right? So I feel like
If
a
you find
black,
someone cool, maybe.
yeah, they think you're a tough guy. They want to hear the story, show them a video, unless you get your ass kicked. Then it's just maybe keep that
Yeah.
one down. But
Then you lose all your
Yeah.
sales. They're like, "I'm not buying it from this loser. That was terrible. Look at you. You got knocked out."
that's true.
I earlier this summer I split my chin pretty good for probably would have needed like 10 or so, but I just super glued the shit out of it. But for a couple mornings on the daycare drop off, it was kind of funny to see some of the looks I got from other parents, as I'm dropping my toddler and year and a half old off with my chin completely wide open. But comes
Well,
with the territory.
it does. It's yeah, no, you definitely can't be, weak and play this game. But speaking of which, let's get into these power rankings and let's get some smack talk going. I think we can always oh, we lost him for a second, but he'll probably oh, there he is. But so the power rankings. Tim, you moved some things around a little bit. Have we had anybody else lock in yet, or no?
No. So the 4 teams that are made it to nationals are still the 4 teams, and then we got the rest of the playoffs are all this upcoming weekend. So the New England region, what Baker was just saying. My region down here in the southeast, we're in Knoxville on Saturday. Gulf Coast is this weekend. I'm not sure where. I think they're in Dallas. And then Metro, I think Collar City Kings are hosting, and Grand Rapids and Detroit are in the middle of a playoff. They played 1 game this weekend. They're playing 2 next weekend. So it's kind of, we're waiting on those last 6 spots. And the power rankings, Baker, you and Cambridge are basically just sitting there in the top 3, battling it out. Unfortunately, we can't have you guys go nationals, but I've been calling you guys the SEC all year because it's basically LSU, Bama kind of situation.
Right. I mean, I love it because no one likes winning every game. No one likes losing every game. So competition is good in any aspect. So the fact that we're battling with a team finally and like going back and forth, Cambridge has been, climbing up a little bit each year, but we've still handed them, a pretty decent loss every game we played them, with the exception of 1 game, I think 2021. But now we're playing them in a game every time we play them, knowing that it's going to be a battle. It's going to come down to the last few goals. It's going to come down to, who takes bad penalties, who makes the right decisions, and who, all the little stuff comes into play way more. And I
Which
love
is
that because
what,
it
yeah,
ramps the
everybody
level of
wants.
lacrosse up that much more. Yeah.
When you go to
So
nationals, you want to have a nice challenge, every year. Kind of. Nick got to talk about that with the Wheat Kings, and yes, they had the undefeated record this year, but last year, right before the playoffs, they are in their playoffs. They lost. Sorry, Tim, I interrupted you there.
you're fine. But I was going to ask, like, you guys have been to nationals and you've played around the country, and I noticed, you guys were still winning games pretty handily, but the games were a little bit closer than they have been in years past.
Yep.
So your region versus other regions champions, like, would you be taking the Stallions or Rhodey versus, a Wheat Kings or a Collar City Kings? Like, you guys have played almost half the country champions.
Yeah, I think in our region right now, us and Cambridge will compete with the champions of everyone else, but it'll fall off from there. Oaks, they were good. They have some stuff to clean up. We're gonna see them on Sunday. I fully expect them to have a real solid roster, put together for playoffs. So we're not taking anything lightly. That's gonna be a battle. But they're still not quite at Cambridge or us yet. They do have the talent though. They're going to be good fairly quickly. Stallions are hit or miss with them this year. It was depending on who showed up. John Piatelli plays with them, who was an all NLL rookie who played in their second game against us and dropped a bunch of goals and got that game tight for them. So that plays a huge factor for them. But again, when you're inconsistent with that type of stuff, you can't really say that they'd be there, they'd compete and beat anyone. So in reality, just us in Cambridge, I would say would compete with anyone at nationals.
Gotcha.
A
I
lot.
was curious about
A lot
Yeah.
of these teams, it's very interesting. They have, a home roster, or it is such a sport that a goalie, or having Patelli or somebody like that can make such a big difference. It's kind of funny how one player, even though it is a team sport, really can, if you have somebody who can bury it, or if you have a goalie who's on fire, they can
I was
really
gonna say
affect the
it
game.
depends on the position. Yeah, it definitely depends on the position. Like if you're the Stallions are solid on D and they have some solid goaltending and stuff, but on offense, if you don't have 1 or 2 guys that have that next level, that next tier of finishing ability or that experience, like playing against good box goaltenders, you're really not going to find much success because you're just gonna, send the ball off the goalie or get shot clock violations all day and end up losing a game, with less than 10 goals scored. So when you plug in a guy like that, especially the way box offenses ran, as the chemistry is set up, everyone's working together. You plug in a guy who can not only finish with shooting, but feed the ball around and get guys going in the pick game, it really adds, enough to change the game completely. It's the same thing with a goaltender, same thing with like a lights out face-off guy, couple positions, one or two guys can really make a difference.
Yeah.
At least where we're at right now, for sure.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And so did you guys get to play Minneapolis last year out in Nationals or no? Have you ever played the Wheat Kings?
Yep. Yeah, we actually played them in Florida at Nationals and beat them pretty good. And then we played them last year and we beat them. I think I had the game winner with like 7 seconds left or something in that game.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
it
say it was a
It
very
was,
tight game, right?
yeah, it was a tight one, but it
That was
didn't go into OT. It was regular time.
was that pool play game? Was that a pool play game, or was that
That
start?
was, we played them. What was it? We played them right before we played Seattle. So that would have been the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys beating them, I think, kind of took them down and knocked them out of that Final Four spot. That's right.
Mhm. Yep.
Yes.
And then we battled Seattle in that OT game.
So if you guys win this Sunday, you guys are the number one team in your pool. Do you have anybody you're hoping to get out of the draw for your pool play games? You have anybody you want like revenge on? Not really revenge on. You guys win a lot of those games, but anybody you're really looking forward to play or you don't want to play?
I love playing the Wheat Kings. I love Nick. He's a good dude, good GM, knows the game, puts a good roster together. Like I said, I'm not going into a tournament like this like, oh, we're hoping for layups to make it easy on the path to nationals. Like, no, we want to play ball. We want to compete against the best in the country. So, I think the Wheat Kings are going to be one of those teams. I think Thousand Island's going to be one of those teams. They're real good. I know a lot of those guys in that mix. But every team there is going to be pretty competitive. So we're excited to play anyone.
Now I
Really.
noticed the spirits have come down a little bit. You knocked them down a couple pegs.
I didn't. The people have spoken. You got in my head last week, feature, and then a few people texted me agreeing with you. So I was like, all right, well, this isn't my league, so I put it up to a vote. And I mean, I can pull it up real quick, but I mean, it was the last time I checked, it was 60% to 40%, I think. Yeah, 65 to 35% with 455 votes. So I mean, a lot of people spoke that the Wild earned that number one spot and that they should still be there. I mean, 2 years undefeated, national champs.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not even saying I think in the game it can. I think everybody in this top five and probably realistically in the top 10, but definitely in the top five, it's a coin toss. Like these games, it comes down to, Baker was talking about it earlier. It's who took a stupid penalty, who gave up his possession. It's those little details at the right time, and I think honestly this whole top five, you're basically like that. So I do think. Yeah, I would give the spot to Westminster. It'll be interesting to see. Like you said, I do like how we did the strength of scheduling, but this is now we're getting into where it's going to be interesting here because this weekend. There's so much action on the line for us to be able to see things and waiting for everybody to finish. And now, Baker, with the season being faster, does this benefit you guys? Does it hurt you guys a little bit? How were you affected by the season change?
As far as what the Nationals being earlier.
Yeah, just to shorten it up a little bit.
Honestly, I love it because every year so far we've had way too long of a gap between regionals and nationals, and that definitely plays a factor. Given the fact that say we like last year, I think we had a full month between regionals and nationals. So not only do you either have to take time off of practicing as a team, or you have to keep adding money into whatever budget that you're pretty much beyond at that point to rent more places or keep the rental going or whatever. It just adds a process, and a lot of guys can even let their cardio go over that period and this and that. So the quicker turnaround I like as far as staying dialed as a team. And the second element that makes it awesome is the fact that the college kids can still be in the mix. We had probably 3 or 4 kids that their fall ball coaches wouldn't let them leave for nationals last year, so they couldn't be with us. But this year, given when it is, we'll be good with that.
That's awesome. I love to yeah, it's great to hear the college guys because like I said, I think that's how we grow the game in this country is just getting the young college guys involved and if we can make it so that way they can play this and still get their fall ball in, that's awesome. I love seeing the it and here's what's going to be interesting is this weekend we find out which of you gets to stay in the top 5. And Tim, now does that automatically drop them out of the power ranking top 5? We're gonna have to, if they're not going to nationals, they can't really be in the top 10.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I was gonna say that the top 10 have got to be the nationals or the winners, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that'll knock them out, and that'll elevate somebody up into the top 10 who hasn't been there yet. Which I think right now the only region that doesn't have a team in the top 10 is the South Atlantic, and that's through nobody's fault of their own. But they've had a couple scheduling mishaps, so I don't think anybody in that region's played more than 4 games. So just
wow.
They had a couple snafus with some rink rentals and some ref issues, and they've had a very cursed season on their end, unfortunately. But so they got punished by not being in the top 10. But if I know the guys on the Reapers who they're the perennial powerhouse down there, they'll come to nationals locked and loaded, ranked 15 for all they care. They'll be ready to play.
Yeah.
But yeah. Unfortunately, whoever loses Sunday is number 11. So hopefully not you guys.
They automatically dropped their spot to 11, and the Reapers, yeah, they had a pretty good showing. I mean, obviously they wanted to do better last year at nationals, but that Carolina team is pretty good. They got a lot of athletes on that team, and then Westminster, I think they deserve the one spot. Oh, now I've got a helicopter flying over the top. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that or not, but oh, sweet. But yeah, I think they deserve it. I've seen them play in the summer as well. I am really interested to see how this team holds up. I can't wait to see how this Wild team fares against the Spirits team, and I really am interested to see how they play against, Maine. You guys, I think everybody would say probably didn't have your best championship game. I think, but that's all part of
that just adds fuel to the fire.
Right, but that's all part of this, though, is really the who can make it there Sunday, hydrated, not dehydrated, not, it's a tough. That's so much lacrosse to be played in such a short time, and yeah, I don't know, they won, and
a lot played factors in that game, but I'm not an excuse guy, so I'm not even going to get into it. But we were not at our best, and it was very apparent. So all summer long, that's kind of been a factor and been a little thing we mentioned in the locker room, on a weekly basis about how our goal from day one is to prepare to be a national champion, not to win on any given Saturday or Sunday. So, at the end of the day, we know where our eyes are, and it's at that end goal. So, like, Sunday, again, we got to take care of business to get there, but I think, Tim, you might be out 50 cents.
I was worried you were watching that one, but I mean, they did beat you guys by 3, and you guys only beat them by 2.
They did. Like I said, we're focused on the end goal. So, regular season loss isn't the end of the world, and we've definitely learned, and we proved that we've grown since then and got the revenge. So, we're ready to go for Sunday.
Yeah. Well, that's why I put, GM to GM, friend to friend. That was why I only put 50 cents on them. I wasn't a very confident bet, but
you're betting against us, and I like that. Like I said, I like that shit.
Yeah, I tell you, I mean, it's really not about how you do in the regular season. I just watched Can-Am, Tonawanda. They were like 8-0. Rochester Nighthawks did it this year too. They came out flying at the beginning of the year, and we see it time
Look
and time
at the Bruins.
Again. Yeah,
the Bruins.
Oh, you stole my heart.
Regular season wins and losses were proven not to mean shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I told my guys that this week. We finished 6-0 for the first time ever, and I think guys were hooting and hollering at the end of the game, and I think I channeled my inner Baker because I got a little angry at my own team of like, guys, it does not matter. Like, we still have another game to win, and then we have more games to win after that.
It definitely adds that. especially from a GM standpoint, like when you go unbeaten all the time and things are good all the time, but like what happens with me sometimes is if we beat these lower level teams, but I notice bad things happening in that game or things that I know will not work at the next level or know that won't work against the teams at nationals, I can't help but be rattled by that. But it's hard to kind of voice that while the boys are fired up about winning and tread lightly. And at the end of the day, I try to set high standards and voice that stuff while not bringing like the whole morale down and saying, "Hey, we won, but we fucking suck." But you kind of just, we I try to mention like that deeper goal constantly because it's easy to do stupid things and score goals against a lesser opponent, but unless you're practicing the right things and doing things the right way, it's all gonna prove in the end when you're playing someone better.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys do any like film work post games or anything like that where you get an opportunity to kind of correct those or?
So we haven't done film work as a team just because it's hard. Like when we're together, we're on the floor practicing. But I know for a fact tons of guys watch our game film constantly because we do have it available on YouTube. And we chat about it. We have a group meet chat for the team all summer long. So we chat about things, put clips up, do whatever. Talk shit. That group chat's a little bit of everything. So it's pretty awesome for the team morale. But um
I feel like the team
come
group
nationals.
chats are like, mandatory. That is where like all the best stuff happens with the team though, and like that's where you guys really kind of build the rapport. I know I get to see it from the outside a little bit where they kind of watch it, but as you're building towards nationals, now is that basically the only way? Do you communicate through text? Is it email, or how do you guys do your team chat?
Our stuff is all through the group chat and telling guys to just check on the socials, like and share anything you see, whatever info we have, we'll be putting it out on the socials and I'll put it out in the group chat as well. And then, the chatter goes on from there. But as far as I go, again, it's a weird dynamic being a player in the mix, but also running things. I kind of just for me in the group chat, it's just blasting out info and I just let it ride and I'll catch up on what guys are saying here and there. But um, it's definitely a good way to keep the group going, keep the chatter going. Like I said, build morale, camaraderie, whatever. People don't realize how much the box game is really about chemistry and being a team as opposed to just being a bunch of good lacrosse players. So anything you can do in that aspect to build that aspect is huge. So, when you don't have a lot of time to spend time off the floor, maybe, team meals or grabbing drinks or whatever, a group chat can add a little bit.
No, that is a huge part. Now, how long have you and Dubé been playing together?
Oh God. Our first summer I think was 2011 playing up north together. So, or 2012, one of those. So over a decade.
That's impressive. That
Yeah.
no, because like you said, the chemistry you can see it when you guys are out there. It's pretty impressive. And the now the rest of the team, basically like you said, because everybody it all goes through you, and you add like one or two new guys, so it's kind of a fluid system. It's definitely a nice thing you got going up there. I love seeing it and getting to meet, the lore there. Paul actually threw the horns up in the chat. I don't know if you guys are watching the chat at
No, I
all. I
didn't see
don't
that.
quite have everything set up where I could put the chat up and have everybody's social media, which does stink because who runs your social media? Is that you?
That's me. Yeah.
Do an amazing job. Your Instagram,
I
your
wear a lot of
videos are
hats.
yeah, it's always on point. You do an excellent job with your Instagram. It's something any of the new GMs could definitely look to. It's always on point. It's right to the action. There's not a lot of fluff. It's good stuff. You see the information you need, but you got some
I appreciate that.
pinned highlights. I appreciate it too because I try to track everybody's stuff, and it's so much better for me to be able to be like, oh, sweet. I know whenever I
Right,
see
right,
something from you, it's like, oh, yeah, this is going to be good. And we'll get to watch a bunch of highlights, probably have some good old, classic rock in the background, and here we go.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. I've always I've gone off what I like to watch and what I like to read and look at. What if I'm interested in stats, I'm gonna put out our stats. If I'm interested in the highlight, I know what players want to see and players, coaches, fans are interested in. So I try to put out as much of that stuff as I can. My major in school was actually marketing, and my first job out of college was marketing director for a startup shaft company called Lacrosse. I don't know if you guys ever heard of them. They were absorbed by Wolf Athletics years back, but um, I that was my first gig right out of school before I went back into the trades full time. So there was a little bit of experience on the back end with the social media stuff, but I've kind of just wung it and done what I wanted to do since then. So
Actually saw one of those shafts. We had a pickup game. Well, we have Saturday pickups, but we had a guy come and I had never seen one. They were complete
the
circles.
round.
Oh, yeah, and they were
So I have to get technical again. Back in the day, they're not complete circles. They're actually ovals, and the science behind it was the fact that the carbon fiber, when it's weaved that certain way, made it stronger, so a higher strength to weight ratio and stuff. But
it
it
was
was
heavy.
tough to sell people. It was tough to sell people on the round shafts for sure.
It felt like I was so like
Was it the Punisher or was it the Lev? There were two versions. There was a Lev and a Punisher.
I don't remember whichever one was heavier because
The
honestly,
Punisher.
it felt like I was holding a barbell. Like
Yeah.
that kind of diameter, and like it was rounded. It was an oval.
Probably why it's
Yeah,
called the
yeah.
Punisher.
That's
Probably.
exactly yeah. So I when I was playing with the Voyagers, we were testers for this random dude who was starting his thing. He came from a golf shaft company, and he wanted to make these rugged ass shafts. And he's like, these would be good for box. So he gave us a bunch of free ones to test, and it coincided with me finishing college. So I was like, hey, can I work for you? And worked out for a little while, but I'm not a sales guy, and it takes a little time to learn that once you're in it. So cool experience, but those shafts, oof, I wish I still had some of those. I loved those things.
Oh yeah, I asked the guy to buy it, and he was like, "Hell no, I've never seen one of these since I got this." Like, all right, that's fair. Because
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not gonna find them either. Not gonna find them.
yeah, that's how were they for box shafts? Pretty good. Or
Yeah, they were awesome. They were like using like a wood shaft. They don't break.
you find me one of those.
Yeah,
That's my
that's
favorite.
huge.
Snap an offensive guy's stick when he comes at you. But
Mhm.
they don't make box shafts like they used to, I guess.
No, no. I'm having a tough time nowadays, like deciding what I want to go with. I break way too many sticks, but like if I buy the real rugged like box defense type shafts that aren't gonna break, I don't like the weight of them in my hands, so I prefer like a carbon fiber light shaft, but I run out of them and I'm broke, so I
I say,
can't keep breaking so many shafts.
yeah, if you're using carbon fiber, you got to be snapping shafts
I've
weekly.
broken 5 in the last month.
Yeah,
Oh,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah, but
maybe
I
you
mean,
should start making them. Maybe you could,
I'm
just as many as you're
we're thinking
going through.
so I had a friend on our team, Ben Herman. He was making wood shafts for our team for a bunch of the dudes, but now with the league rules, we're not using wood sticks, so that option went away. But now the carbon fiber stuff has been brought up, so Doobie's actually dabbling with some things right now. I'm not going to talk much about it, but we
Well,
may you may see some cool things come out of the Northeast from Doobie and stuff like that with some sticks.
that's
I
amazing.
mean,
I,
if you
I
guys get
love it.
this rolling, let the league know. We'll springboard it as much as we can.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It probably won't be like a legit business thing, but like it almost like a traditional stick maker, like a guy and who knows a guy and
And if
get
you want the
get something
Dubé
cool.
Classic, yeah, that's a
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
that-
I don't know the way box equipment is these days. Like, I mean, goalie stuff is the worst, but I mean, even just shafts, solid, good equipment, ribs. I feel like there's a
It's like a
market.
niche market. It's like a
Yeah.
niche market, yeah. But it's definitely there and it's definitely growing. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I I'm sick of breaking sticks. I just bought one at Placid that I'm hoping will get me through regionals and stuff, but I'm relying on like the early 2000s versions that I got laying around the garage at this point.
like an S bend to it towards one end or
What?
some in it.
Oh no, see that's why I use the carbon fiber. I can't stand a bent shaft. Like there's nothing worse than a bent shaft, like not realizing it's bent until you throw the ball or whatever. I'd rather break it or it stays straight,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Especially in box, because that a little bit of a torque to it that changes the whole angle of the shot.
Yep. Yep.
well,
It's happened to me before, honestly, where I've bent a shaft and then not realized it, and in that same play gotten a good look for a shot and completely missed the shot, due to the fact that my head was completely sideways and I didn't realize it until the shooting motion,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Carbon
frustrating.
fiber it is for me.
Yeah, that's nuts. No, that's just one more expensive part of the sport. Just one more thing that adds to it. So I don't know how long we've been doing this, but
Right.
I think it's been over an hour. I just realized because all of a sudden I just saw the kids shutting the lights off in the house, getting ready for bed. So I was like, "Oh, must be bedtime." But wow, so it's time flies. So this weekend we'll find out whether you guys are in or not, which I'm sure we'll all see on the social media and what it's all day Sunday essentially.
Yeah, so first game starts at 10 a.m. and the championship's at 2:30. So,
But
championship, like I said, is regular stop time. So that'll probably be 2:30 to 4:30-ish.
by
And
five
games going
o'clock we
on
should
all
know
day.
who's going to be up
Yeah,
there and know
by
who's coming
5
out of the.
p.m., we should have an answer, given it doesn't go overtime.
You got a score prediction or just win?
I won't do a score prediction. I'll predict that we'll take care of business.
Now
Like confident.
you don't do overtime though, so what do you guys do? It would be a tie game and then it goes down to what, the regular season stats?
No. For a championship, we would definitely be playing overtime.
Oh, I thought you said you weren't. That's why I was like, hang on, that doesn't make
Oh, no. I said by 5 p.m. we should have an answer, given
gotcha.
that the game doesn't go into OT.
All right, yeah, all right. I was like, hang on, somebody needs to explain this to me because
That would
this
be
makes zero sense.
that would be
Yeah,
that
that
would
would be brutal.
yeah, that'd be wild.
There would definitely be a lot of crap talking after that one. Nobody's going to be happy with that
No,
result.
yeah, I wouldn't let it happen. There's no fucking way. There's no way that's happening. We're not tying a championship.
I like it. Thank you. Everybody's at least got some common sense, so we're all on the same page there. All right, so
Right.
hopefully we'll find out Sunday. Good luck for you. I really hope to see you guys out there again.
Thank
If
you.
for
Thank you
no
very
other
much.
reason than the main Northman with the horns up in the chats, I know that when I'm out at nationals, and Mrs. James hooked us up. She brought us some muffins the next day. I hope he's still on the team. I hope he still got
Yep,
James.
yep. Nick is still with us, and I'm sure, if we're out there, Mrs. James will be out there with us.
That's awesome. I'm sure my wife will be excited because she ended up keeping her company for a while. And although now we might not be sitting next to everybody because there may or may not be a mezzanine there, so we're working that out.
Scaffolding. You guys would be up in the air.
Yes, we will be up. Maybe not with Mrs. James
Real
watching
deal.
the
We're getting
game.
big time.
Yeah.
Every year it gets a little better. But thanks so much, Kyle. I really
Yeah.
appreciate getting to talk to you. I love what you guys are doing out there. I love how much excitement you have around the team. The fan base and loyalty is not something you see out of every team. So it's awesome to have the horns up in all the chats, and you've got a super dedicated. You're doing a great job up there. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Thanks. I really appreciate that. I put in years and years and hours of work to try and make this happen. So it's nice to hear stuff like that once in a while, the appreciation and or at least notice what we're doing. So that's great. But gotta pressure's on. We gotta keep it rolling and take care of business this weekend. So again, like I said, hopefully we'll see you out in Chicago.
All right, and it should next week's show it's probably just going to end up being me and you, Tim, so we can kind of wrap up everybody that's making it because it sounds like everybody's wrapping up this weekend.
We're doing the drawings for the pools next week.
That's right. So we're doing the drawings for the pools next week. Kyle, we are going to do another thing like we did last year where if you guys make it, we need to set up another day. I'm going to try to get some interviews. We'll try to get everybody's sponsors up there. I want to try to make sure everybody knows
Okay.
all of your sponsors. So that way, when your nationals are playing, I want to be able to put your sponsors on there. So that way, like your fans at home get to see and like your people will get to see their stuff. So that'll be cool if
Perfect.
we
That
can
sounds great.
try to get them in there at least watermark if you guys have a big sponsor. So awesome. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right. Thanks again, guys.